You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Well, speaking of theme, or lack thereof, we're going to go to Four Gardens. That's my game. We're on game number 28. There's a thing. This thing, it does a thing.
Yeah,
it does a thing.
It's kind of themey, I guess.
All right, so Four Gardens. In Four Gardens, it's a gimmicky game. I mean, it's hard to even say. In Four Gardens, you win by having the most panoramas built, and you're going to build panoramas by taking actions, right? So you're going to have, I think, 3 actions each round. You got 5 cards in your hand when you start your round, and this is the cool part. I do like this part about it. You have to decide how to use each card whenever you take that action, because you can take 3 of them, and the cards can be used for four different things here, or 3 different things. One is going to be to move around your resources that are on your board using the cart. You're going to use it to spin the gimmicky pagoda that's in the middle of the board that spins around in order to gain resources, or you're going to put it down as a goal or an objective in order to begin to fill those panoramas. Those panoramas are going to be in different colors. You got like blue and red and orange, right? On that correspond to different panoramas, right? So if I build a blue set of cards and it's got, I think, 5 different cards in that panorama, I have to build all 5 in order to finish that panorama. Once I complete that, I can't go for another blue set. I have to go for a different set, like an orange or a red, and they each have a different number of cards required to complete that set, that goal, right? But the tough part is you're going to be drawing cards that might be attached to a blue, and you want to finish a blue panorama, but it does something really good on the card, like get you resources in an order that you desire, or the goal is small, and maybe it's easy to complete, right? So you have to make some decisions on how to use each card. I like that decision. But once you place it face up as a goal, you then have to take actions like collect resources from the pagoda. When you play a card, it'll tell you, and this is a 4-level pagoda. The only way I can describe it, folks, is think about like going to the pharmacy and they have like, or even like lens crafters, and they have like all the glasses on one like tube in the center of the store, and you kind of spinning them around to figure out which sunglasses you want to buy, right? It's kind of how the pagoda works. Each side of each level, 4 levels, 4 sides to a level, will give you 0, 1, 2, or 3 of that resource, right? And then when you play a card in order to collect resources, it's going to allow you to spin one of those 4 stacks on that pagoda, which, if you spin at a different level, could impact the ones above it. All right, so if I spin at the top, I'm only moving the top. So what's facing me, I'm changing the top one. But if I spin the 3rd one, I'm not only rotating the 3rd dial, but I'm rotating the 2nd dial above it and the 1st dial above that, which impacts what order I receive. And you have to receive them in the order printed on the card, either bottom up or top down. And that sounds great, like I'm getting all these resources, right? Wrong, because you can only hold 4 resource bits. And if you fill your resource bit holder with the wrong stuff that you need,
well, don't do that,
right? You can't collect those other ones. So you really have to plan out, strategize, how am I going to complete the objective cards that I've set in order to complete the sets that I desire by taking this action. So that's a strategic arc, right? Sounds real cool, right? Except you can't make any decisions until it's your turn.
Yeah.
You can't. You might as well do like I did when I beat Robert and Mike and Dan at Isle of Cats. Go play another game behind you, right? Until it's your turn again. Right? I played Blood Bowl and Isle of Cats and I won. I could have done that here because you did not need me for anything. There was no need for me until it was my turn to make a decision because it's too tactical. And that's where it kind of didn't mesh for me. It's a very tactical game. You can only make tactical decisions, but you have these strategic goals, right, that you just can't do anything about until it's your turn. But it had some good feelings, and some of the good feelings are when you complete an objective card and you add it to your panorama. There's a color for each card, purple, yellow, blue, red, or wild, which is going to move you on a track. That's the point tracks at the end of the game. When you complete a card from that panorama set, if you already have cards established and completed on that panorama and you move it over there, you get to trigger all the colors on that panorama. So every time you trigger that panorama, you get to move your little push button on the track more. That was fun, right? But the fun part is when you get to the top of that score track, that 10, and usually when you hit that wall in most games, it means nothing.
Can't do anything else.
Can't do anything else. in Four Gardens, what's really cool is when you hit that wall and you bump up to it again, you get to push everyone else on that track back one down that track. So like, although I had already completed my purple track, made it to the top, I still had fun completing purple, not because I got more points, but because I got to watch you guys push your pieces backwards on the track.
And if you knock somebody off the end of the track, they can't ever come back onto the track, so they have to give up on that color for victory points for the rest of the game. So that definitely gave it a plus for me. That aspect of it. I agree with you 100%. And this is a game that you can't pre-plan. The first half of the game we played, I played in a game different than you. Well, we played it 2 different times with 2 different groups, but. About halfway through, I started making the joke that I'm not even going to look at that stupid pagoda anymore. I started staring up in the air. I started looking at stuff that was going on around me, because when you're looking at it, you're sitting there thinking, oh, if somebody rotates that one to the left, I'm perfectly
Why give yourself hope?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
just lining yourself up to be disappointed.
Or if nobody touches it between me and the next one. I was playing a 4-player game, which I think you played as well, so it was a maximum count. But, yeah, I mean, you can't plan ahead at all. So somebody's going to make that one twist of the pagoda right before it's your turn. It's going to mess up everything that you were trying to do. So, yeah, I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was fun. Again, we played it, probably it says here about 45 minutes. I'd say we played it in our 4-player game in about 45 minutes. And
That's spot on.
Yeah, it moved along. So for what it is, I'd call it a filler game. I'd call it a fun game. It's not one you're going to get too serious about. You're just going to play it. Definitely not a game that I would want to play all the time. And so I think my rating on this is going to be a 6.
Oh.
And again, I'm going to say, again, that's a game that I'd have to be in the mood. I wouldn't play just anytime it hits the table. If other people wanted to play, I definitely would back out and let other people play. But if it hit the table and I was in the mood, I'd play it. But I'd say 6 for me.
I like this one. I think it's very pretty. It triggered a little bit of AP in me, the turning of that pagoda, because so each level of the pagoda is a different resource, and there's 4 sides. It could be either 0, 1, 2, or 3. And so many times I would turn it and I'll start getting my resource and I'm like, wait, no, that's not right. I'll turn it back. And it because it's like, I think the problem was I was paying attention to the pagoda the whole game, unlike these guys. And so someone would turn it and I was still thinking it was what it was 2 turns ago, So I would turn and be like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I thought was going to happen. Because even like Carlos said, they could be turning, in theory, like all of them at a time. So it really resets. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8. I liked it a lot more than these guys.
Oh,
apparently.
okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, my rating was a 5. I did win, so it's not for lack of being able to play the game. I can play the game. I found it clever. I think I'll use that word. It was clever.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rob, we got to talk about your definition of filler, right? When you say filler in 45 minutes ish, right? It's just.
Oh no, I like heavier, longer games. So 45 minutes is a palate cleanser. That's for me. That's
Clash of Cultures, heavy, long. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Rack it
During
up.
the game,
I'll play that on
Carlos,
the
you
computer.
said something that I think was very quotable. You said, people keep making clever games. If only they would make fun ones.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a good quote. Yeah. Clever and fun.
There's a difference, and this one was clever. So Four Gardens, Arcane Wonders is the publisher on this one. This is one of the Arcane Wonder tables, and the designer is Martin Dolezal.
Good.
So that takes us to Rob for game number 29.
Back to me.
Of the marathon.
Okay. Well, this game is going to be the one game that would compete for my game of the con. Again, I think my game of the con for me, from new to me games, was Aquatica, as I mentioned before. But this game, as far as a new game that was new to everybody who played it, we learned, when I say we, it was me, Dan, and William again. We played this on Saturday night, the nice night of the con. And this was one that we were all looking forward to. Actually, Dan brought his own copy from the shop from your turn, and but a lot of people were playing it at the con. And this is Unsettled. Unsettled, another brand new game. The Kickstarter just came out. I don't believe this one's actually even available in retail. I think this was Kickstarter only, and so at least right now, I don't think you can pick up a copy of it. I watched the Dice Tower review of it. It came out actually on Sunday. We played it on Saturday, and Tom Vassal walked by while we were playing it. And he said, "You're going to want to check out our Four Squares review of this tomorrow. It's hitting." And he goes, "I'm curious to see what y'all thought of it." Dan, William, and I all unanimously loved this game. We thought this was a great game. There's a lot of little mechanics in this. Basically, what it is, I'm not gonna give it its true due as far as the depth of the game, but really what it is almost as a gaming system. It's a set of cubes, which I love my cubes, but it's cubes and player mats. But there are modules that you plug into this. Basically, each quote-unquote module is you can buy, and you will be able to buy, I would assume in the future, upgrade modules for it. The Kickstarter, the box comes with 2. I think as an upgrade on the Kickstarter, you could get up to 4 more boxes. Each box is a planet, and each planet has 3 stories in it. Each of the stories, it's just a stack of cards, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that you're basically just playing through. You're going on these different planets. You're meeting objectives. You flip a thing. There's a little bit of story, and then it tells you, like in the first one. I'm not going to spoil anything here. The first step of the first one, you're landing on this planet that's just lush and green, and everything's slimy and oozy. And your first thing is you need to set up 3 stations. You need to set up a laboratory, an engineering station, and then there was a third one. I can't remember what it was, but you have all these face down tiles so the game is going to be different each time you play. You randomize them, you mix them up, you lay them out in a certain order. The game is going to show you for each of the planets how they lay out, and then your ship is at either, I guess it could be in the middle or on a side or an edge. On this first one, we started on one far end. Our objective was the other end of the map, and it doesn't tell you much about what you're doing, and then you just go and explore. And so you're going out, you're discovering these tiles. We had to discover the 3 locations that allowed you to build structures on them. So we had to find the 3 locations, have the right materials to then build what we needed to build. But like I say, this really is, it's kind of a gaming system, the whole box here. The trays in this game trays.
The actual game trays?
Yeah, this was actual game trays did these. They were awesome. Basically, you're just going to pop the stuff out of the box. You're going to hand the stuff to each of the players. There's a little bit of setup for each one of the different missions, and they're all going to be variable. Each one of the different planets that you go to is going to have some different tiles that you pull out. There's dice in this game, but the dice are rarely, if ever, rolled. I don't think we rolled them at all in our first game, but you're just moving them around to change the number of pips because your different colored dice can do different things when you put them in different places. But this game's full of exploration. This game is full of resource. There's resource gathering, resource management in the game. It's cooperative. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that before. It's fully cooperative, so everybody's playing, just trying to beat the mission. It is not easy. There are 2 modes. You can play an easier and a harder version of each one, and basically all it is your starting ship. You flip it to one side, which if you land on it, if you go to it, it gives you some kind of ability. Your other side's just blank. It's just a starting tile. It's just your ship, so that's the harder version. We played it on the harder version, and about halfway through the mission, we started getting a little comfortable. At least I started getting comfortable. I was like, "Oh, we got this. This is no problem."
You got to stop doing that
all the time. And then when we got down to the end, we were down to probably a turn or 2 away from losing, and we ended up pulling out victory. And this was a lot of fun. Mike DeLisio from the Dice Tower actually taught it to us. We started reading the rule book, and he stopped by and he's like, "Hey, are you guys trying to learn this game?" And I knew he had played it during their Autumn Spectacular, and so I said, "Oh yeah, we definitely would appreciate a teach." So he stopped by and taught it to us, and this game was a blast. Just as a little bit of hindsight here, anybody who watched the review from the 4 Squares, of the Dice Tower group, Tom gave it a 6, I believe, which was a really low score. The other 3 gave it 8.5, 8.5, and 9. So the other 3, Chris Yee, Mike DeLisio, and Roy Cannaday, all gave it 8s, 8.5s, or 9s. I am definitely falling on that end of it. Again, I've only played one of many of the missions, but I'm going to say this is, if I got to pick an 8 or a 9, I'm going to go 9. I'm going to say this was a 9 for me for the one play, and I'm really anxious to get back to this and try some more of the expansion, some more of the planets, and see. And then you guys got to play this one at some point if you get a chance to get this one in. You may not love it. I don't know. I'm going to say it's not for everybody, and it is a cooperative, and so you're definitely having to noodle things through. It's a puzzle, ultimately. The theme on this one definitely fades away to some extent when you get into the puzzle. You got to really think about, all right, we got to do this in this order. Got to go over here, get the thing, move it to there. You got to use, there is some asymmetry here. Each person has a little bit of a starting ability that you got to take advantage of, but this was a really fun game. And again, I know neither one of these guys have played it, but do y'all have any thoughts on it, or?
It looks cool,
Yeah.
but I don't know anything else about it.
It looks like
Was that the one that someone? I'm sorry to cut you. Was that the one that someone had walked out of the hall with? Right? And
Oh, it
yeah.
was. Yeah. Tom, none of the games were supposed to leave.
it was
the
an
gaming
APB
area.
on that one.
Yeah, Tom had to get on the mic and announce if anybody had seen it, and then about an hour later, he came back with a guy with a frowny face. Was very unhappy. I heard there was quite a discussion between him and Tom about taking games out of the hall. But this one disappeared for a little while. But luckily, we had Dan's version to play.
The theme interests me. It reminds me of kind of Lost in Space kind of a feel where you just end up on some random planet and got to do some stuff to get off that planet or succeed on that planet.
Yeah.
And then the description that William gave me of the narrative of the writing in the stories.
There was humor in there. I forgot about that. It's very humorous. But
puts it on the list of I want to play.
Yeah, this one was a good one. And let me give the dues here. So this is publisher Orange Nebula, and the designers are Mark Niedlinger and Tom Matson. But I say great job again. I think Aquatica edged this for me because Aquatica I can see I'm going to buy that. It's a game I'll just play over and over. I'll introduce a lot of people to it. Unsettled is definitely more of an experience. It's a 60 to 90 minutes. I would say with our learn we were over 2 hours on it. But a really good game. Once you learn the mechanics, once you learn how the game works, I think plugging all these modules in will be seamless once you learn the basic steps. But really good game. I really enjoyed that one. But, okay, Mitch, next is you.
Number 30.
This will be quick. We were munching outside of the game hall, and Carlos pulled out Fox in the Forest.
Ah.
I'm not big on two-player games. I'm not big on trick-taking games. I'd only played a couple before. So it's a trick-taking game with virtually no theme, in my opinion, so I'm not sure why Carlos likes it. Yeah, the cards have varied powers. The main gimmick, I guess, with this one is that if you win too few or too many tricks, then you'll actually get less points. You want to be in a happy medium, which is not my jam. I like winning things, man. I like winning. Otherwise normal trick taking with trump cards and all that. But yeah, not my favorite. I'm going back to my extreme, going to a 2 on this, Carlos.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I think we're losing connection.
And what does a 2 mean again? Let me look here. 2 is very
2
bad.
is
won't play again. Oh wow. Okay, that's extreme. And I might have missed it there. Did you say you normally like trick taking games or?
No, I normally don't.
Okay,
that's why.
I'm sorry.
That's 100% it.
Designer Joshua Buergale, publisher Renegade. Sorry, guys, not my jam.
Yeah. All right, Carlos, we'll go ahead and tell us.
One, Rob?
I have. All right, I'll jump in the middle here. So, yeah, I have. I've only
better
played
separate him, bro. I'm gonna come at me.
I get in the middle here. So
Getting froggy,
nobody gets hurt. So, I like trick-taking games. I do like Fox of the Force. I've only played it twice, I think, all on one sitting. I think Carlos and I played through it, and then maybe William and I played with somebody else. Maybe my daughter. I can't remember. You taught me and somebody else how to play, and we played a quick game of it. But in any case, I think I'd give it a 7. Again, this is going to get compared a lot. It does get compared a lot to The Crew. The Crew, I think, is still the standard for me for trick-taking games. I'd give The Crew probably an 8 or a 9. But Fox of the Force is a good one. It's a solid one, and I do like trick-taking games. It does have that unique mechanic, again, that you're not trying to, what they call shoot the moon. You're not trying to get all the points, all the books, all the sets. You're not trying to get usually a minimal amount. You want to get kind of right in the middle. And then once you get in that middle area, then you're trying to figure out how do I get just enough to maximize, throw off to my opponent so they don't get too many, but that I can get the score that I want. And then there's those cards in here that do kind of unique things. They kind of break the rules one way or another, which is interesting. It takes a little while to get used to, though, to learn what all those extra little cards do. But all right, Carlos, go ahead. Tell us how much you love it.
No, to me, it's on the cusp of a 7 and 8. But the reason I go with 8 for it is because of, number one, Mitch, Rob, and I love trick-taking games. I grew up on trick-taking games, so I can see why this is not your bag. But for me, it's really stood out because it took a trick-taking game and made it an interesting 2-player trick-taking game. Right? So I've played 2-player trick-taking games, and they can get pretty boring because you're just trying to win points. That's it. You're just winning points. And this one with the whole got to find that sweet spot, it's just fun because you can really push, and then the opponent just starts giving you tricks, and you start yelling, "Stop! Stop letting me win! Stop! Stop!"
Trying to find a way to lose a trick.
Right, because I don't want to get that number that gets me back to 0 points.
Yeah, exactly.
And then giving up all the points to the other player. So because of that innovation, to me, it deserves the 8 that I give it. Fox in the Forest.
Yeah, it definitely does a few little twists on the standard trick taking, which you have to these days to stand out. And this one is a little bit older. This one's been talked about for a while. Let me see, what was the release date of the
2017?
2017.
I love how we say 2017 is older.
That's older. That's an old game. 2017. Man, 4 years. Woo. But yeah, it's a good game.
All right, so here we have another one set up on the table, on the Arcane Wonders table. It's Foundations of Rome is the one that I'm bringing out. Mitch brought me over there to teach me the game, so it was great having someone walk you through and kind of control the board, the tableau. I think Rob joined us in that game.
Yep.
And it was Mitchell. Was it just the 3 of us, was it?
I think it was, yeah, 3 of us.
Yeah, just the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rob, you played one other. We played like one age with some of the other guys before that.
Just to learn it. Yep.
This is the definition of overproduced. like Kickstarter
Yeah.
game, flat out. So I'm gonna go straight to the cut on this one. Overproduced Kickstarter game, did not need to be what it is, which takes it out of the realm of my ability to buy it. Like I'm just not gonna spend the money on it. I mean, although I'm rating this thing at a 7.
Okay.
Right? So I'm rating Foundations of Rome at a 7 for gameplay. I just don't think I'd ever want to buy it because it's just too expensive. It could have been done with chits.
Yeah.
But I get it. It looks gorgeous on the board. And the Roman theme is what really brings it to me, really made me enjoy it. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking actions to take control of deeds on a plot map, so a grid of the city of Rome. You're then going to use those deeds to place buildings on those spots, and those buildings will give you either more population or more banking or more victory points, and you're going to be bidding or buying these deeds as they come up on a tableau left to right, where the cheapest are on the left and the most expensive are on the right. So it's kind of push your luck a little bit because you may want that deed, but you don't want to spend 6 coins for it. Will it still make its way down as other players buy it? That's the push your luck aspect. I struggle with those games because it has to do with valuing the plot. Right, I struggle with being able to put a value to things. Right, is it worth $6 to buy it? Guarantee I have it, or do I test and wait and let it drop in value? I make mistakes there. Either way, I still won the game, so it wasn't hard to figure out and play.
Wasn't all bad.
No, it was gorgeous. But if it wasn't for
Carlos
the Roman,
always is going to edge in a comment about whether
Whether he won or lost. Yeah.
If nobody else,
or just when
if
he
he
wins.
wasn't the one who wins, he doesn't care who won in
Right.
this recap. Only if it's him.
well, because I'm talking,
Yeah, I won, but just on the side.
He's got to slide that in there. Yeah, he does.
I think my folks at home understand when I talk about me winning is because I'm trying to compare it to my rating to show that winning doesn't skew me. Right? I can lose and still love it. I can win and still think it's clever but not fun.
Yeah.
Now, this game is fun because it has this little engine building thing going where you're trying to build different buildings that increase your engine and then kind of modifying it. But if it wasn't for the theme, I would never even play this game. It would be at like a 3 or a 4.
And the big chunky bits, of course.
No, I would love it at Cardboard Bits.
Oh, really?
Kind of like a patchwork.
Polyomino.
Yeah, if it was just polyominoes, I'd be happy with it because it's a beautiful Roman theme to it. It's just it's out of my price range, and it shouldn't be this expensive for a game this light, folks.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Is we discovered afterwards because there were some comments about the price versus what you got, and we only had the opportunity to play the base game. That's all they had there. I guess the Kickstarter has a lot more. They have different game modes. There's a cooperative version. There's a solo version. There is an auction version where every plot that comes up is on an auction instead of just a straight buy. There's a one that where your starting positions are all done on an auction. So when you start the game, your starting plots that you buy are on an auction. I forget. William went through the book. They had the full printed rule book there, and he went through and saw all the additional things that you get in the Kickstarter. I would like to try some of those. I mean, we played just the basic easy mode, and I think somebody had said that for the just the basic version of it, it was $99. So it was about $100 for what we played. I would definitely not pay $100 for what we played, but I think they said the top only went up to 160, and when you went up to 160, it multiplied the game complexity by about 10 of what we had, and then it added at least twice as much plastic. There was tons of extra plastic in the full Kickstarter version. So I think I definitely would like to see that and play with that and see what the different modes offer. But this is one of those games that I think you'd have to play it. It's got a bunch of variety in it. I don't know that I'd ever touch all of that if I bought it, and I just don't tend to play one game over and over and over that much. But this is one that the table presence is just awesome. These big chunky buildings, the big board of the plots that you're placing them on, it really will draw people over, and it's really a conversation starter. And the theme, as you said, even though I'm not huge on theme, the theme was really cool. Building out Rome, trying to figure out the places where to put these things to get the multipliers on your victory points, to maximize the amount of gold you're getting, to increase your population. There's a lot of little things to think about. That was a lot of fun. I would say I'd give it a 7 for what we played on the base game. A solid game. I'd kind of have to be in the mood. It's not something I'd always want to play, but I would play it more often than not when it hit the table. And again, I'd like to dig into some of the deeper strategies of it, trying to play it with auctioning off the plots and things like that. I think that would be fun and would make it a little more gamery.
I would be out if it was an auction game. I struggle already valuing based on a tableau.
Okay.
Getting into a bidding war for a building that gives me no points would make this game stuck.
Yeah. All right, Mitchell, what do you think?
For me, I definitely think it was overproduced, but for somebody who's not a big fan of theme, I mentioned the polyomino thing. The guy who taught it to me, he was like, "Hey, if these were cardboard and they were flat, would you play it?" And I was like, "Nope."
I wouldn't either.
So the plastic actually kind of won me over.
Yeah.
It's a very simple, quick game. I think I'd have to give it a 6. I enjoyed it, but I would not pay $100 for it. There are some unique things, like your population, for example. You score for the next highest person's population. Whoever has the highest population gets this little bonus.
Yeah.
That was kind of unique. And so it's like, is it worth it moving up because I'm actually helping the person below me? And also, they had I don't know if they're called wonders or something, these specialized buildings anybody could buy one of. I feel like they didn't change the game enough, though, affect the game enough for it to really affect the replayability. I liked the game, but I wouldn't pay the price tag for it. I think that was everybody in the table that I played with. I played 3 games of it, was in agreement on that. The storage solution, it takes up an entire calyx square.
Yeah.
And Rob, you and me helped Tom pack it back up. It's like you have to pack it sideways.
We had to try several times.
It's not fitting. So, decent game.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned, you might have mentioned Arcane Wonders, and Emerson Matsuuchi is the designer. It was a fun game. It's the kind of light concepts, but a little deeper, I think, than first look. And again, I want to try I'd like to try it with some of the more complex stuff, to see if it gets a little more gamery.
It's a lot of plastic, man. I mean, how many dinosaurs had to die to make all that petroleum?
Lots of plastic.
Rob, you're up.
Okay, I'm running close to out of games here, but I'm going to hit another one that was a real highlight for me of the con. I'm going to pull it up here while I talk. But this is another game. I'm not sure if it is out yet. I'd have to look to see what the release date is, or whether this is in retail. I believe this is either in retail or coming to retail. This is one both Mitchell and I got to play at the end of the con. This was, I think, on Sunday. Or might have been late Saturday.
Third to last game, I think.
Okay.
Sunday,
This is Brian Boru, and I had seen and heard some buzz about this one just before the con started. This is another one that the Dice Tower group played on their Autumn Spectacular, and I watched part of the playthrough. I didn't watch the whole thing, and I had seen a couple of reviews of it. So this is one I was really looking forward to, and we actually got pulled into, and unfortunately I'm bad with names. I don't think Mitchell remembers either. There was a husband and wife, a young couple, who pulled us into it. They were getting ready to play, and they were looking for a couple of players, and as soon as they mentioned Brian Boru, it was like, oh yeah, that was one of the must plays of the con for me, because I just really started hearing the buzz about it before we went. I will say there were 2 experiences in this, and the 2 experiences were, we played one of the basic rules incorrectly for about the first half of the game. The couple we played with, they had sat down and read the rule book before they invited us in, but they had never played, and we played it wrong the first half, and it just felt like it was too tight and it was too hard to get money. And so I started looking at the cards a little closer, and I said, you know what, I'm going to ask Tom. Tom's Vassal sitting just a couple tables away. I'm going to ask him, because I know he played it during the live playthrough, and just kind of clarify we're doing this right. So in the middle of the game, I got up, went and asked him, and discovered that we were playing it wrong, that you could do one of the actions that we didn't think you could do just to collect the money and not do the other part of the action.
That's the rule book's fault, though. That wasn't the guy.
It was. Yeah.
It says if you choose an action, you must do the whole action.
Right.
But basically, it should be if possible.
Yeah.
So almost every time you gain money, it was saying you also had to spend $5. So it was not possible for us to do that.
So we were thinking we couldn't do that because we couldn't do everything on that line. But when as I started kind of reading that over and over, I was like, it's got to mean do everything you can do. And so that's what it is you do everything you can do. If you can't pay for something, then you just don't do it. So once we did that, the game loosened way up, and I think all 4 of us immediately said, whoa, this game just became 3 times more enjoyable, because we're not fighting this money tightness the whole game. And the second half of the game was a completely different experience. I would say the second half of that game, just basing it on that, and then what I suspect the replay would be, I'm going to give this an 8. I mean, this was a really solid game. It was a fun game. Let me just touch on mechanics real quick here. I don't want to go into too much, but it is another we'll call it a trick-taking game, but it's a very unusual trick-taking game. The main mechanic is you're handing out this deck of cards that there's 4 suits total. There's 3 colors. There's yellow, there's blue, and there's red. And then there is a white card that's wild is the 4th one, and it's a deck of 25 cards if I remember correctly. None of the numbers repeat though; they go 1 to 25, and so it takes a little bit of learning. But once you play it a few times, a few hands, you'll learn what the different numbers are on each of the blue cards, the red cards, the white, and the yellows. But basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to take territories on the board. And if you want to cue this one up, I'll pull up some pictures here of it. But you're trying to take over territories on the board. If you end up winning the trick, which is at the end of after we played a 4-player game after all 4 people have played, if you have the highest number either in the color that you started with or the white can win it, then you will take the city that you were vying for. And if you don't, then each of the cards has two bottom actions that if you lose the trick, you can choose to do one of the 2 bottom actions. And so there's a barbarian area where you're trying to fight off a barbarian invasion that's going to happen at the end of every round, or a Viking invasion. There is a church section, which if you win the church section every round, you can place a disc or a circle around one of your cities on the board, and it makes it worth power 2. Because there's an area control part of this where you're going to get victory points at the end of the game for area control in the different areas. There is also I'll call it a marriage track where you're trying to marry the princess each round. And as you're moving up that track, if you it's only 4 rounds in the game, but each of the 4 rounds, whoever's the highest on the marriage track is going to marry the princess. And each of the different princesses that come out, there's a stack of them. You're only going to play with 4 actually princes or princesses. There are males and females. But in any case, you'll get some kind of dowry. You'll get some victory points, or you'll get to do something on the board for some of that area control. And so this is a game that you can throw off. Getting back to the trick taking, you can throw off at any time. So if somebody leads with red, and you have red, you don't have to follow with red. If you just want to do something different, you can throw off a green or a blue or a yellow card just to get rid of it. Well, I say to get rid of it, although, again, the really interesting part is you've got at the bottom of each of the cards, as you can see here in this illustration, there are a couple of different options. Usually the top ones get gold and then possibly place another city token on the board. The bottom one is going to give you some influence in one of those other 4 areas, or the 3 areas, the barbarians, the church, or the little love letters there are for the marriage track, I'll call it. But eventually, as you play through the game, you're picking up some victory points here and there as you go through. But then you're also trying to gain control of the different provinces, the different territories around the board. And those only score at the end of the game. And they're only going to score if a certain number in each of the regions of cities have been placed there. So in one of the regions, the bigger regions, let's say there's 6 possible spots you can go, that's only going to flip over and become worth any victory points as long as there's 4 of those spots taken. So if nobody goes there the whole game, that one may not be worth any victory points at the end. But then there's this area control that there's the tiles that you're going to hand out, and people pass them around. And whoever holds those tiles at the end of the game, as long as there's enough cities that have been taken in that region or placed in that region, then that will flip over and will be worth a certain amount of victory points. And so, a long story short, there is a fair amount going on in this game. There's some different tracks that you're trying to push. There's an area control element of it. There's this whole trick taking part of it that's kind of a modified trick taking. There's a couple other things I haven't even touched on that go into this game, but it was a lot of fun. This is a game that kind of stuck with me afterwards. That day, I thought about it more, and then the longer now we've been, a week and a half removed from the con, I've kind of thought back on this game, and I was like, you know what, this is one that I'm kind of itching to play again. I definitely want to find a copy of this. This is one that may find its way pretty quickly into my library, and I think my rating on it's going to be an 8, just based off of the one play. This is a solid one, and this is one, depending on the crowd, it plays, 2 to 4, I believe. I don't think there's a 1 player on here.
No, they said you had to have at least 3 players.
Oh, it's 3 to 5. Okay, yep, 3 to 5, that's it. 3 to 5, it says here, best with 3. It's from Osprey Games. Pierre Sylvester is the designer, says 60 to 90 minutes. I'd say we played, a 4-player game. I'd say the 60 to 90 was probably about right. I think we were over an hour. We were learning it as well. It was probably closer to an hour and a half, maybe 90 minutes. But I would say definitely, this is one I would definitely recommend that people try if you like area control, if you like trick taking, even though, again, I kind of almost hesitate to call it trick taking. It's so removed from trick taking that you can just kind of throw cards away anytime you want. But this is another one of those, like I would kind of compare to Inish a little bit, that you need to learn those cards, although it's just 4 different colors and just a series of numbers from 1 to 25. But until you go through the deck a couple of times and you start learning, okay, the highest blue is going to be a 19 or whatever it is, and the highest red is going to be a 22. You gotta kind of learn those odds. At the first time you're playing it, you're kind of not sure when you're putting cards out. But this was a fun game. I liked it a lot. What did you think, Mitchell?
Yeah, I liked it. I'd agree with the 8 rating. I like that a lot of these games are coming out that are mixing major mechanics. We talk about how Arnak and Dune are deck building plus worker placement, and this is trick taking plus area majority. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of trick taking, but this was very light trick taking. I liked it.
Sure.
And there were some cool things. So those side tracks, like the barbarian track and the church track, what I liked was whoever was leading in there in each round would get a benefit, and then they would wipe from there. And then like the second most would get a smaller benefit, and they would lose some from there. So it was almost like a catch-up mechanic. It was kind of cool with those. And I liked it. But then if you were on the bottom of that track, the barbarian track, then the barbarians come and control one of your villages and cover it up. So that was kind of cool. It also felt a little bit like Furnace in that sometimes I actually want to lose the trick because I want that bottom ability more so than I want what you get for winning the trick. It was a solid game. I enjoyed it. I also liked the theme, like I said, with Ireland and my family. But it was trying to become king of Ireland. I think Brian Boru is a famous Irish king, I believe. So yeah, solid game. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
I have a lot of interest in this game. I did not have the opportunity to play. I can't remember what day you all played it, but this one, because Osprey Games is a company I enjoy, Undaunted Normandy, The King is Dead, and many other war games that I've played. Osprey Game publishes books for them, so like historical war games. They're a book publishing company, so I'm really interested. But I think game wise on this game specifically, some of the things that interest me include the losing of the trick in order to get a consolation prize. I love that about Furnace. I see that here as an interest. And then when Rob, you talked about getting control or getting points for control of areas, how you have to have so many areas controlled in order to take that. I really like that because it prevents the players from just quickly spreading out at the end of the game in order to grab free, like, quick victory points. No. If it wasn't influential throughout the rest of the game, why are you going to get points of it at the end of the game?
Sure.
You got to plan ahead to get those points. So very interesting.
Yeah.
I got double 8s from y'all on that one.
A lot of good mechanics in that one. Yeah.
That was Brian Boru.
Yep.
All right. Next, I guess we're heading to me. All the games I have left, guys, just so you know, we've all played. So, or at least one of you have played.
Yep, eat 'em up.
We're going to be some double dipping here. Just next one is Pan Am. We were actually talking about Pan Am ahead of time. Carlos joked we were going to play it at the airport whenever he picked me up, and I ended up grabbing it in the game exchange as one of the games because it was, we were talking about it. And after the Dice Tower library had been packed up, we're like, hey, what we're going to do? We still got some time. Hey, we got this here. Let's play it. So we broke it out. It was Nick and Rob and me and another guy. I forget his name. It's the same guy you taught Clash of
Alan,
Cultures
I believe.
It was Alan from Maryland.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah. So we were very surprised. This was a Target exclusive game. We didn't expect too much, but it was definitely a step above family weight. It's a worker placement game. Pan Am, the corporation controlling the airline industry, and it's different from, in a way, it can kind of look like a Ticket to Ride. There are different routes, but it's whenever you put a plane on a route, it's not like you're traveling. You're claiming that route to get income from. And so it's possible that you won't always have that because Pan Am comes and buys you out, which is a good thing, though, because they pay you money for it.
Oh, yeah.
It has a very good play reference. It's got some cool little planes. My biggest complaint is there's different levels of planes, and some of them look very similar. And there are these little minuscule lines on the wings to differentiate between the different tiers that are hard to see. But anyway, every round at the beginning, the stock of Pan Am is going to randomly change. And there'll be some kind of event, and it's going to tell you how many times Pan Am will expand in that round. And then you do your worker placement. You can either get airports, which permanently give you landing rights in a city. You can buy cards that'll potentially give you landing rights in the city. You can buy new planes. As the game progresses, you can get better planes. You can claim routes, and you can get these like directive cards. There's some unique things about these worker placement spaces. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them are bidding. So if you get outbid, you get that worker back to do later. And Nick actually one time he outbid himself just to stall so he could have the last placement.
Right.
It could be strategic. Also with the when you get these priority, what's it called? Directive cards. You have priority access. So there's up to 3 people that can place it. In that turn order, the next round, they get to go first. So those stay on the board. But we actually realized that it's usually better to go last unless somebody jumps to the highest bid that you can't bid anymore. The coolest mechanic and the main core mechanic is whenever you're building these routes. So the routes are either going to be at a distance of 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you have to have the corresponding plane or better to do it. You have to have landing rights in both of the cities, and you can do that in a number of ways. Either have the card for that city, which you don't have to discard, or have basically the same thing, which is an airport in that city. Also, you can discard a card that matches the region, or 2 light cards that match a different region to have landing rights, and you claim that area. Pan Am starts from Miami, and you roll this die, and it tells you which track it's going to take in starting to buy out other companies, buy out other routes. So it's like if you place closer to Miami, then it's more likely to buy your route. So it's kind of like a rush for right there. But there's also a side of the die that you can pick anyone to sell. And there are certain routes that it'll never buy based on the pattern on it. So that was kind of cool. And then, you get income based on your routes. If they buy out your route, it decreases your income, but you get the plane back, but they give you a lump sum. And then you buy stock, and it's just who has the most stock in Pan Am. For a Target exclusive game, I thought it was pretty good. I think we all enjoyed it. We played it at 4. It was nice and tight. Last night I actually played it with a buddy at 2. It was a lot less tight. We almost never had to bid. We just weren't doing the same things. It would probably be better I think around 3 would be a nice happy medium. I think I'd give it a 7. It was a pretty solid game. What do you think, Rob?
This was my surprise of the con, my pleasant surprise of the con. And like you say, being a Target exclusive, a Target game, I was not expecting a whole lot from this. I'm going to jump over here real quick. And this is Funko Games. Prospero Hall is listed as the designer. I knew that Carlos has owned this game for a while, and he's talked about wanting to play it for a while. And again, like I think you mentioned earlier, I'm definitely somebody who likes people to teach me games. I don't like to. I'll watch a video and learn a game that way, certainly before I read a rule book. But I can't remember. Somebody had sat down. I think William had sat down and read the rule book on this and taught it to us. And
that was me.
Oh, was that you? Oh, was it you? I'm sorry. But this one I liked a lot more than I thought I was going to. And I'm going to give it an 8 just based on the one play. And I can see what you said with 2 players. It probably would be too open and too free. I don't think there's much or any scaling on. Do you change anything at 2 players for the setup?
You get more workers.
Okay, so that tightens that up a little bit. But no, I think this is one I definitely would like to play at 3 or 4. I see it says best at 3 or 4 on here. I liked it at 4. There was a little bit of downtime, but the whole idea here on the board, when you're bumping somebody, if you outbid somebody on something, they get their worker back, and then they get to place it again when it comes back around to their turn. So I like that part of it, that you are trying to bid low because, if I get bumped, I get bumped, and then I'll have to outbid them again or do whatever. So sometimes you're doing some of that bumping back and forth. I like that part of it. I like the whole claiming the routes and trying to race people. And in this game, we went different. Our 4-player game, we went different ways. I took down to South America and then came back up through the east side of the board. I know Nick jumped to some of the high dollar routes way off in the northwest corner of the board, hoping that eventually Pan Am would make its way that far across the board. He ended up beating me by 1 point at the end, so there was tension. I think our scores at the end were all really close between the 4 of us. We were within just a few points of each other, if I remember. But I thought there was a good amount of tension at 4, but I could see, like you say, playing it with 2 or 3, I could see would give some of that up. So I think my rating would probably go down with fewer players. But I think at 4 players, this is a really solid game.
Surprising.
One thing I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I taught geography for many years. I know where a lot of these cities are. Yeah. I understand for a flight game, it's better to have a top-down view.
Yeah.
But it's like the North Pole is the middle of the board. It's so hard to find.
It was distorted. Yeah.
It bothers me.
It was hard. Yeah, hard to find some of the things.
I cut you off.
That's for sure. Yeah.
No, I'm saying I'm surprised to hear from y'all how much fun this game was for you.
Yeah, you got to get it played for sure.
Well, let's keep going on the theme of global and transportation. I'm going to bring up Captain Sonar.
Okay.
So Captain Sonar is a title from 2016, published by Matago Games, designed by Roberto Fraga and Johan Lemonier, and it's a It's just a solid game. Like, I'm just going to go right to the chase on this one.
Yeah.
This is one of the games that we tend to play late nights at cons.
Another one of our con favorites. Yep.
Whenever we get it played. And every time we get it played, I always say, why don't I own this game? I know you have it.
I've got it, yeah.
So I haven't bought it because you have it. But it's a battling game. And I like war games, but this is different because you're playing 4 versus 4. So you have 2 teams of 2 submarines going at each other. Attacking each other, and each person on that submarine has a role. You got your captain, you got your engineer, you have your radio operator, and then you have your first mate or your chief, and each of you has a different job, right? So the captain is going to be dictating where our submarine moves on this map. So we got a map on the board. It's a gridded map. We got to decide where to move on it around islands and things like that. The first mate, his job is going to be to power up the different systems that are available for the submarine to use. So we're going to have things like sonar and drones to be able to find the opposition submarine. You're going to have things like mines and torpedoes to attack the other submarine. And then you're going to have things like run silent in order to evade, right? So you get these different systems you're trying to charge up. And every time you take a move action, they charge up one of those systems. But when it's time to use the system, the engineer's job is to mark down and disable certain systems, which that energy is being spent to move. But they have to make sure that they're disabling them in a certain order that allows them to re-enable those systems so they're available at the time that you need to use them. So if I need to fire, I got to make sure that our weapon systems are online, right? Charged up by the first mate, online by the engineer. But where are they? Right? I'm on a target, but where are they? That's the radio operator. Right, their job is to listen to the other team. As that captain yells out directionals for what they're doing, they're on a map board marking out what they think that other captain is doing, trying to plot to figure out where are they, so that when we attack, we do that whole battleship style. Right, shoot a torpedo at B4. Right, and then we have to wait and wait as they check their maps, and then they pop their head open. You said B4, right? Yes, B4. Okay. Indirect hit. So we have an idea of where they are. So now we got to recharge. We got to set those systems, and it's all so frenetic because it's real time.
Yeah.
There's no turns here. It's all real time. It is one of the most stressful games that I love to play, and I have to give it a solid 9 for what it is.
Wow.
It is a 9 for what it is. There's no other game I want to play that is team game, 2 teams of 4 players that even comes close to how much fun I have playing Captain Sonar.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, this is a game we've played a lot, and we've gotten a lot of these in at cons. Pretty much every Dice Tower, every con we go to, we get a game in. So this is one of those games you really want 8 people to play. You need 4 on 4. You can play it with fewer, but then people just end up taking on multiple roles, and it's really difficult to manage doing more than one of the stations. Controlled chaos, of course, is what this is all about. I mean, it's about yelling stuff. Everybody's trying to communicate with the captain, let him know what's going on. Everybody's trying to, the captain's trying to strategize on how they're going to get to where they need to be, how they're going to stay away from the other team, but kind of come up and flank them so that they can get those torpedoes off or drop a mine so the other person will drive right over it and explode the mine. So this is a game that's waned a bit for me. I enjoyed it a lot more early on. I think because of the chaos, because of the tension in the game, and just doesn't fit my personality probably as well. I really liked it the first 10 times we played it. As I've played it more, it's become a little less exciting, a little less enjoyable. I would give it probably a 7, I think now. I mean, originally it was probably an 8 or a 9.
Yeah, you bought it and its expansions. You loved it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I really liked it before. And again, the other part of it is just a table. It's a game that just doesn't hit the table as often as I wish it would. Again, being that it's
a player.
Because it's really good at 8 players, 4 on 4. Anything less than that, I think it's really tough. And people will say that sometimes when we have our game days, people will say, hey, let's get a 4-game or a 6-player game or a 4-player game of Captain Sonar in. Like, no, it's really not enjoyable. If you're having to do run 2 different boards, it slows the game down. It's twice as much for one person to think about. Then you have to decide if you, especially in a 3-on-3, if you got a 6-player game, only one person's taking on 2 roles. So who's going to take on that extra duty? It's just one extra thing to have to worry about. But at 8 players at a con, this game shines, and I'll play it pretty much any time. But just in general, I think I'd have to knock it down to a 7.
For me, it's definitely a 9. I bought this one. It was actually taught to me by Chris G, and we played with Bonacore as well. And then I played with you guys the next day. The real-time aspect of it is what makes it so much fun. Like I've said before, I'm a Stonemeyer fanboy, and whenever Pendulum was coming out, which is a real-time worker placement game, I was really excited by the concept, and it fell flat for me because it limited you so much. But those limitations, it's not like you're placing workers in this game. There is a version that is a turn-by-turn aspect, which I think would take all the fun out of this game. It would slow it down, and there's not as much tension. I bought it. I can't wait to teach it to my group here. We regularly have at least 6 people. I think with 6 we could manage, but I wouldn't want to do it with less than that. I did not like being the captain. It was stressful. I liked being the radio operator, trying to figure out where the opponents were. But solid game. I know they have like a kind of a stripped down version for like 4 people called just Sonar. But I was afraid that would cheapen the experience for me. So I went ahead and bought the whole thing. A lot of fun.
Yeah, they've got 3 or 4 versions out now. I know there's a family version that's really light. There's a version that's just for one-on-one. It's turn-based. It's not real-time. You just go back and forth, and each person takes one. But, yeah, I agree with you. Those I haven't played those, but those don't sound fun to me. They strip away the real fun of this, which is the chaos, the 8 people yelling at each other. And, hey, Captain, we got to do this. No, we can't do that. We got to do this. No,
Fire the torpedoes. They're not ready. They're not ready.
Yeah, so it's chaos. That's what the game's about. So, yeah, those other versions I don't think are.
It's one of those games that it never ends with me wanting it to be over. I always want it to go a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, the sign of a really good game, that you wish the game was longer. Usually you're saying, that game went a little bit too long for me. But this one is always like, man, it's over already. Let's play again.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Rob.
Okay, I think this is the last one I'm going to hit. I think the last one on my list. I'm trying to see. I've made all these mark throughs, but this was a game that finally, I know Mitchell taught several games. Actually, yeah, this was the 3rd or 4th game you taught me, and this is one I had heard about. I wasn't. I hadn't heard about this one as much. This is a game that was kind of on the fringes that I had in the past years. I've heard the name come up, but I really didn't know much of what it was about. This game's Nanty Narking, a 2019 release. Phalanx Games and Martin Wallace. This is a Martin Wallace design. And this is definitely on the light end for Martin Wallace. Martin Wallace is known for designing some much heavier games. But this is a game that's set in, says Victorian London. So it's the Victorian period. And I didn't realize it at the time. Here in the description, it says this is based generally on the worlds of Dickens and Doyle's novels and literature. But this game is a deduction game, although it's a little different. It's not like a lot of deduction games that I've played. At the beginning, you get a random character face down out of a character deck, and different characters have different goals in the game of how they're going to win. And Mitch will correct me when I mess up here, because I'm not going to hit all the important points, I'm sure, so you can help me fix it as we go along. But they have different ways of winning. Some of the characters are just trying to control a certain number of territories on the board. Certain characters are or a character is trying to win by getting a certain amount of money in their coffers. I don't know. I can't remember if there was one for assassinations, for killing people. I don't think there were, because there wasn't a way to track that. But
there's one that wants to have a certain amount of threat on the board, control a certain number of areas.
Okay.
One that wants to survive to the end of the game.
Okay. And so what you're doing is you start out in one location on the board. I believe it was one location, maybe 2 locations on the board.
3, actually.
3. Okay, I'm sorry. So you're playing cards. You've got it's asymmetrical. You've got a one deck of cards with all the actions on them, and they're it's a handful of keywords. Again, in this one you got to kind of learn. But there's you have to have what they call threat on the board to be able to assassinate someone to get them out of an area. So that's the only way that conflict happens in the game, as far as I can recall. You also are putting buildings out, and buildings give you some permanent presence in the different areas, and so you're having to buy these buildings. Each of the buildings are out in kind of a market area, and as you build the building, you take the card and you put it in front of you, and it allows you to have that, or I'm sorry, that's in the territories. When you build a building in a territory, you're taking the card for that territory and putting it in front of you, and you now get a persistent ability. Each of the different territories around the board have different abilities that they give you, and you now have that persistent ability that allows you to do something in the game better or in a different way. And the actions that you're playing, the deck that you're going through is one large deck, so it's very asymmetrical. I don't even know if that would be the correct term here to use, because it's just one deck of cards, and you're dealing out, it's like 5 or 6 of them to each person at the beginning of the game, and it may scale, I guess, depending on how many people are playing. But you're you've got these cards and you're just playing, and they have icons on the left-hand side of the card that allow you to do different kinds of actions, like an assassinate action, or build a building, or place another, I'm going to call them characters, out on the board. You have these little characters that you place out. The characters were kind of generic. They don't give you any special abilities. They just give you some kind of presence in a different area. And like the character it's called hero or whatever that I was playing, that I was representing in the game, I was trying to control 7 different territories around the board. And so what control is just having more presence in the area than the opponent. So again, a building counts as 1. Having a character mini in the area counts as 1. And so I could win either by building buildings or having people in areas where nobody else was at, or I would just have to outnumber them. Like if I had a building and a character and the other person only had a character in there, then I would be 2 to 1. I'd have that control. So just at the end of my turn, I needed to have control in 7 different areas. And it's unique. I don't think I've ever played a game kind of like this where different people have different things that they're trying to do on the same board, and you're assassinating each other, you're pushing each other out of different areas. I believe your character ended up, they were trying to have a certain amount of money at the end of the game. Is that right?
Mine was, yeah.
Okay. And so you're trying to deduce that as you're playing the game. You're kind of seeing the way your opponent plays. And so you're trying to figure out, okay, but based on the way that they're playing, they might have this character or that character. They may be trying to do this thing or that thing. And so then once you figure out who they are, you're trying to stop them. I got lucky in the beginning of this game that I drew a card that allowed me to look at all but one of the discarded characters. So I knew who I was, and I got to look at all but one of the discarded ones and see who had been taken out of the game.
Card counting now.
Yeah, basically. So I was able right off the bat to narrow it down to 2 possibilities of who the opponent was playing, and so I knew that there was one of 2 goals. And when you started trying to amass that money, it was pretty obvious to me pretty quickly of who you were. And so I didn't feel like I had a lot of control. And again, you've played the game, I think, a lot more than I have. I didn't feel like I had a lot of control over stopping you from getting money. A lot of the cards, and again, I just may not have gotten the cards. It didn't seem like I was getting cards that were forcing you to spend any money. So I was kind of just hoping that you weren't going to amass through the cards that you were getting the amount of money that you needed to get. On the flip side, again, for me, there was tension there because I think you picked up pretty quick on what I was trying to do, that I was trying to spread out and get more territories. And so you just kind of kept moving in. I'd move a character in, and then you'd move in and kind of counterbalance it. So I'd have to find a way to either assassinate you and get you out, or to build a building there, get some money, build a building so that I could have some more influence there. So it was different than I thought it was going to be. I didn't have a whole lot of preconceptions going into it, but it was just a unique enough a game that it was so different than anything I had really played before. And I played hidden roles before. I played deduction games. They're not normally my favorite, but I think I'm going to give Nanty Narking a 7. I definitely want to try it again. I'd like to try it with more players. And again, you can speak here about scaling with more than 2 people playing it, how much that changes the game. But it's definitely what I'm a little intrigued in, and I want to try again. I didn't love it off the first play, but I definitely want to give it another shot.
Yeah, I like Nanty Narking mostly for the theme. I think Carlos would really, really like it. I mean, you have Sherlock Holmes and Sweeney Todd and Oliver Twist and all of this in one game. I would give it about a 6. It's a different type of deduction game where you're trying to accomplish your goal, but you're also trying to deduce what the other people's goals are. In our play, like you said, I feel like I had the most obvious one, was to get $66.
Yeah.
And so there are these things in the game called debts that, like, you can play this card and you get a lot of money, but you have to pay it back later. And so I'm thinking, I don't care if I have to pay it back later, because as soon as I get $66, I win. But then, like, right before the turn I was going to be getting $66, I just noticed a little asterisk on my card that said, debts are subtracted from your income. I'm like, no, because I didn't know what you were doing with trying to get the different areas. And I was like, I think I can get to 66 before he gets
just
to his area.
So
I'm going to stop playing defensively. But then by the time I realized, oh no, I'm not going to be winning this turn because I missed that asterisk, I was like, I can't stop him. He needs one more, or 1 or 2 more turns. So that was kind of exciting. But yeah, it's better with more people.
Okay.
Because I think whenever you're just facing someone down, it's more obvious what they're doing, as opposed to if you're looking at what 4 different people are doing. But yeah, it's a fun game. I give it a 6. There is an advanced variant that increases the complexity a little bit, but also gets a little bit confusing. So each of the buildings and each of the characters have a unique mold. And the way that the advanced variant works is that each of us are going to get a certain number of cards that match up to specific molds, and only we have that ability with that specific character or with that specific building. So that adds a little bit more to it.
Okay, yeah, because the one we were playing, all the characters were just kind of generic. They didn't do anything specific. So it's like if I had something that allowed me to put a character down, I just threw one of the minis down, and it didn't matter who it was. But yeah, that definitely would make a difference.
Now, I will say also another seemingly fun part of the game is the events deck, but events are just so rarely played. Like
Yeah.
there could be the Great Fire of London and it spreads around the board and kills your buildings. I've never had that happen. They have these like little soldiers that could come in, like homeless people. I've never had any of those ever come out.
Yeah.
So I feel like the events could be more prevalent.
Yeah, thinking back, I think we only had. I only think I played one card with an event on it. I can't remember if you played any at all. So right,
I don't think I played any.
Yeah, I don't think that I completely forgot that events were even in the game. To be honest, so yeah.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts, Carlos? Any?
Well, it's funny because in the comments, as I'm reading the reviews on Board Game Geek, there's a lot of people talking about the randomness of the events being punishing.
Ah,
So it sounds like it didn't come up for y'all.
yeah, just based on the cards that you play. If you don't play a card with an event icon on it, then the event just doesn't happen. So
Yeah, a lot of the feedback online on this one has to do with not being a typical Martin Wallace game.
Yeah, it was very
going
different.
into it. I think I would be disappointed because I didn't get my Martin Wallace out of it.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
All right, so Mitch, this takes you to. I think we're out, so it's on you now.
No, you have two more, Carlos, because I have two left, and I played both of them with you.
Oh, my memory must be waning.
All right, hit us with the first one.
I guess I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give this other one to Carlos. So I'm gonna go with Loopin Louie.
Oh, I had that one written down. I figured one of y'all would hit that. Yeah.
Whenever you guys pointed to it, I was like, no, I am not playing. It's a kid's game, right? So it's a farmer going around in circles.
That wasn't your first play of Loopin Louie, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh,
I've never
my.
played before.
Wow.
It's a farmer going around in circles, and he's trying to knock your chickens out of the coop, and you have this little lever that you can launch him up. I really enjoyed it, and I thought I was being a little bit of a game snob.
Yep.
It was fun, and we played on a modified version. The same guy who played Cash Cultures with, Alan, he had this version that, first of all, he had 3D printed to double the player count, a 3D printed part, and also he had sent it off to be modded so that the motor inside randomizes the height, the speed, and the direction of Louie. My favorite part, and I mentioned this on the call-in show, I don't know if it's a pre-programmed path that this motor follows, but it happened every time we played. Louie would come and stop right in front of your chickens, just out of range of your lever, and just like stare them down and stop for like 10 seconds. So we're all like, ah, and then zoom forward like as fast as he could. And like your reaction time, you couldn't get it out. He would always get a chicken down with that.
Yep, no matter how much you mashed on that button, he wouldn't miss.
Yeah. So I know Carlos said you have the Star Wars version, Loopin Chewie.
Yep.
This is a fun one I think that my kids would enjoy. I think I would give it like a 6.
Okay. Not so bad.
Sorry, I didn't say the publisher and all that. That's designer Masaru Aoki and Carol Wisely, published by Bandai back in 1992.
It's a throwback. I do have Loopin Louie and Loopin Chewie, and I'd give it a 7. And especially at its basic 4-player game. This is something we would play in X-Wing tournaments in between rounds. We would have Loopin Chewie out, just for fun. This is definitely a funsies filler game, Rob. Filler,
Yeah.
Not 45 minutes, Rob.
It's a
filler.
45-minute filler, right? No. This is one of those wake you up at 1 a.m. when you're getting ready to play another serious game, or just an icebreaker in the morning, or when you're introducing to new people and you want to get something just to get a little laughing going, a little conversation going. Yeah, this game's great. I mean, this is you talk about filler. This one can be over in just a couple of minutes if the Chewie flies around and hits the things in the right order. The Louie, but I mean, I give this one a 7 or an 8 for what it is. I mean, for a filler, for a little 10-minute quick little game, and then obviously you can
that word with so much vitriol.
Filler,
in your voice.
yeah. So this one you can reset over and over, and you can play it, and you can kill time while you're waiting for somebody to finish up at another table. But that mod made all the difference in this one. That's gave us lots of giggles with that mod. This one, it went forward, it went backwards, it sped up, it slowed down. So
that Fast and Furious, Dominic Toretto moment where it kind of pauses.
It just stares you down.
and then just launches. This is awesome.
Yeah, and Tom Vassell was enamored with it too. He didn't see it until he was on his way out.
It's on his vlog. He did the vlog video from the retreat. He's actually got the video of it.
And he was asking Alan. He said that Alan needed to email him with the name of the guy from Germany that he bought the mod from, because he was very interested in acquiring that mod. So yeah, it made it all that much more fun. So great game. Yep.
So Mitch, which game did I miss?
Remind Carlos what game he missed.
Tiny Epic Pirates. Nick had mentioned that it wasn't in your play log.
There you go. That's the last one.
It isn't in my play log. Interesting.
I'll pull it up here. Yeah. Tiny Epic.
Have you played that one before, Rob?
I have. I played it just one time. I didn't love it. Not to spoil whatever y'all are going to go into. It was okay. It was solid little pick up and deliver game, but it wasn't my favorite. But we'll let Carlos jump into that one.
I guess Tiny Epic Pirates is my first Rondell game I ever played. It's by Gameland Games. And it's something that Nick kickstarted. Nick had kickstarted it, and I jumped on board with him. So we both got copies of it through his Kickstarter that he did. It released just this year. It's Scott Alms is the designer. He's also the owner of Gameland Games. And it's another Tiny Epic game packed into a tiny little box, except for this one has the pirate theme to it. And the order in which you take your actions is based on the rondels. So you're going to, of course, in like any good pirate game, you're going to sail the seas, you're going to find merchants, you're going to rob them, take their loot. You're going to take your pirate ship, fight other pirates, all meanwhile trying to hide from the Navy that's out chasing you down because they're going to beat you up. And then you want to pick up goods from your seafaring expeditions and then deliver them to places that want those goods in order to cash them in for money. On this game, because this was tough. Like, I want to rank this one on different variables, right? Because I want to rank it in the Tiny Epic world. It means this to me. But I also want to rank it in the pirate world because I like pirate games. So I think I'm going to land on this one an 8.
Okay.
I think some folks might think that's high. I say 8 because it plays what I get out of Merchants and Marauders, which is one of my favorite pirate games, in a shorter period of time. So it's like a condensed version of it. The mini ships, ship minis are beautiful. I'm always enamored with the nautical theme. You know, that coming from Puerto Rico, growing up in the Caribbean, going to different forts, going to St. Augustine, seeing the forts in Puerto Rico. All just kind of reaches out to me, which is probably why I like it more than others will. It can last a little longer than I think it should, because it takes a little while to get there. But it's a good one.
Getting the cubes in and out of those little boats, even with my little...
You're going to knock it 2 points just for that.
Yeah, little kid hands. That was a big thing for me, is that we were constantly having to knock over the boats and dump them out because we couldn't get our fingers in to get those little cubes.
And the scales fall off if you dump them out.
Yeah. So it's a fun game. I see what you're saying, though, with the rating it in the Tiny Epic. I mean, it's one of my preferred games in the Tiny Epic line. I think it's one of the top 2. I think Galaxies is probably still my favorite, the original. This is probably number 2. I haven't played them all yet. Played probably more than half of them. And so this one is solid in that line. So I see what you're saying there. I think I would give it probably a 7 overall. As far as pick up and deliver, there's some better ones. The Rondell, I'm not sure how much that lent itself to making the pick up and deliver part of it. I mean, to me, it's essentially a pick up and deliver. I know there's some other things you can do. There's some combat.
Whenever we play Merchants and Marauders, all you want to be is the merchant.
Yeah, pretty much. So, although until I had to turn pirate and had to go after everybody, but I tried that one game that failed miserably. I couldn't do anything. I kept dying. But yeah,
every time we went to go pirate raid someone, his ship got sunk.
Yeah, over and over and over. So starting over from scratch every time was no fun. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate what they're trying to do with this, making it, a small version of Merchants and Marauders, really. I mean, it really feels like a scaled-down version of Merchants and Marauders, but it's a little fiddly to me. Again, the Rondell part of it I didn't enjoy as much. I played a handful of Rondell games. This wasn't one of my favorites. So, yeah, I'd say probably a 7 at best, maybe even skewed closer to a 6, but I'll go with a 7.
7's good.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 7 as well. I do like this game. The Rondell is cool because you can use your deck hands to skip over actions, and that takes them off of those benefits at the bottom. I also really like the combat, how you have these deck hands, and they tell you what numbers are going to be hits. So if I roll a 1, but if my deck hands say 1 is a hit 5 times, that's 5 hits. Then if I roll 2 1s, it's 10 hits. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, I think a solid 7.
Z-Man Game did that with Pocket Battles, and I think I taught that one to Rob. You're setting up different units, right? But then almost like Pocket Battles or even Space Base / Bad Company, your goal is to kind of spread out your setup. Like you can either go with the Carlos way, which is I want to stack all my stuff on one number, so when that one number hits, it's like big payout. Or you can go like the William route, where you want to get a little bit of each number, so no matter what you roll, you're getting a hit. What was your feeling on that? How would you?
Well, the thing is, in this game, it's not like there's HP or anything, so it's like all or nothing. So I think early on, what I did was I tried to diversify with like my first, like I would try, whenever I'd get a deckhand, I would try to make sure it didn't match my captain, but then so that I had a spread. But then the deckhands that would come up, I would try to match it to stack, because it incentivizes you to kill other players, because you get those legend levels, which give you money and more workers. Because if you're just fighting a ship, it's really just, it might give you money or resources. So if I'm trying to kill another person, I have to roll better than they do. And also there's also those surefire tokens where you could spend them to put the die on any side you want. So I think in that case, it's better to stack than diversify.
I agree.
Also, a side note, I like how the game is just, you plant a third treasure, the game is over. It's not like a turn timer. Yeah. It's not a certain number of points you have to add up. It's just, you plant 3 treasures, you win.
Yeah. Good times. That's Tiny Epic Pirates by Gamelin Games. And I think that actually
we covered a
wraps
lot
up the marathon.
Of games. That was over 30 games, right?
Robert, I counted as 37 games.
37 games.
Oh
Talk about a marathon review.
Yeah.
37 games.
We had, 3 other from our group there that they mostly played what we played, but there were definitely some. I know Nick went off and played several games with other people. So, yeah, but we had well over 40 between the 6 of us.
Yep. So that's our marathon board game epic review for Thanksgiving 2021 for y'all.
Hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, you can hopefully listen to it in the background. You hopefully enjoyed it while setting up for your Thanksgiving festivities or while some digesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to post all of it up there, and then I will use them separately individually. But I want to first off thank Mitch for joining us virtually from Louisiana.
Thanks for having me.
Woohoo!
And Rob for coming over to spend. This is
all the way across town.
Yeah, it's a long day. Yeah. So we are the Beans and Dice podcast. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. We do our call-in show. Call in. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us why Robert's definition of a filler game is incorrect. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. 813-618-7099 is the number. Call in Thursday nights for the call-in show. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
I'm Mitch.
And we're the Beans and Dice podcast. We're a podcast about how we game. Yes. Thanks for watching.
Everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.